So I'll be going over how to install this TRP Mission Control box. The install is pretty much the same for the ECA Plus boxes as well. So this is a majority of what comes with the kit. You know, you got your main harness here, flex fuel sensor. They come with these Deutsch connectors here if you want to add, you know, an oil pressure or another pressure input. We're not going to be needing these, so put them to the side. It comes with the boost controller, the little max solenoid there, and the bracket. I already mounted it, and I'll show how I'm routing everything here in a second. It's a pretty straightforward install from here. You know, very similar to a regular flex fuel kit install where you got your power and ground. Now, instead of, you know, using the ECU pin 102 as a signal, we're going to be using these CAN high and low wires, and I'll show you right here how to get those. So to get started, I prefer not to cut up this grommet too much. I already have the fuel pump hardwire going through here. So what I did was, you got to unpin this connector over here from the chassis. So you're just going to take a little pick or something and just lift that connector up without breaking it, and you're going to basically stick a screwdriver or something through there and, you know, penetrate the little, I don't know, whatever's back there. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to run these CAN high and low wires, as well as the connector, where is it, right here, down through that hole, because this box right here is going to sit by the ECU, you know, kind of down where the passenger footwell is. So I'll show that here in a second. Now you're going to come here to the passenger side and take out, I believe there are 6 Phillips screws to take out the glove box. So earlier you saw I stuck that screwdriver through the little grommet there. So we have it right here. This is where we're going to feed our Canbus and flex fuel connector wires through. So I went ahead and depinned it. So to do that, I mean, you're just going to take a small little, you know, flathead, and very, very gently, you're just going to pry these little pins back and slip, you know, each individual terminal out. So yeah, just going to go ahead right now and feed these through, up through that hole right there, and then I'll show that in a second. So if you go on TRP's website, they have a few different options of where you can hook up the CAN high, CAN low wires to. I've already installed the ECA box, and for me, I found it the simplest way is to use E10 right here. So these 2 wires. So previously we already, you know, kind of took this out and had this connector out. I would recommend unplugging your ECU connectors and kind of just pulling most of this out. I already had it out since I just pulled this engine out, but yeah, you're going to basically find these 2 wires right there. Make sure you follow this guide, and make sure, because you don't want to be doing this twice. And yeah, the yellow wire back there is going to be the CAN low, and the turquoise one is going to be CAN high. So now onto the power and ground. For the ground, you're just going to crimp on a ring terminal, and you just take out this little 10mm bolt right here and ground it there. For the power, for the 12-volt source, for the G37 and 370Z, you're going to use, there's a little yellow wire on the BCM right here, and I'll show a video for that, how I've done it on another car. This car is a 2015 Q50, so the BCM is completely different. So I went to the FSM over here, and I'm going to be using pin 125 on that ECU connector. That is the power supply. So it's a red wire. So this ECM connector over here, I'm just going to slide off this cover and basically tap this little red wire right here for power. Got the power all tapped. What I ended up doing is using a connector. I just bought some little, you know, pigtails off of Amazon, some 1-pin connectors. So I went ahead and soldered that to this, and, you know, tapped that right there on the ECM connector. And then for the ground, just went and crimped a little ring terminal. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that over here. But yeah, I mean, from here on out, it's pretty straightforward. Boost controller plugs in right here. Just going to clip that in, and then you need to figure out a mounting point. But what I'm probably going to do is use this double-sided sticky tape right here and mount the box somewhere up over here. For the most part, wrapped everything up down here at the bottom, so I got the box mounted right there. Got the ground, power wire, and everything's there. For the boost controller, don't mind these two wires right here. They're not going to be used for this application, so you can forget about that. A few things to keep in mind. One, make sure you don't unravel these CAN wires right here in the back. They need to stay spiraled and loomed like that. Another thing too, for the power, I would highly recommend either using a connector or straight soldering the power wire to that ECU connector or whatever. A lot of people typically like to use this type of stuff where you kind of just use a tap, but you know, there can kind of be inconsistencies in voltages and signal by using this stuff. So yeah. So once you've finished everything underneath with the wiring, you're pretty much done. I've got the flex fuel sensor connector right here. I just routed it kind of along through here. All the plastic and stuff is going to sit here. It's just going to kind of sneak along here and connect to the flex fuel sensor. You can put the sensor pretty much anywhere depending on what system you have. This car, I'm going to have it on the return right here. If you have fuel rails, I would recommend mounting the regulator somewhere in the back. And also, since the lines and the routing is going to be different, you can put the flex fuel sensor on the bottom. So I got this build pretty much wrapped up here, and I just wanted to go over the TRP stuff again. So as I said earlier, I have the flex fuel sensor mounted on the return. It's on the back of the four-way right here with the CJM return, and I've snuck the pigtail kind of along there under the plastics, and then it just connects back there. It's pretty discreet in that location, but still accessible if needed to. Yeah, in terms of the boost controller back here, I mounted it with the supplied bracket. I've got port 3 going to the vacuum reference, which is this little port behind the throttle body, and I believe that is port 1 teeing from both of the wastegates, and then this one is just vented to the atmosphere. I would double check with your tuner, however they want the boost controller routed. Some have preferences and things like that depending on your setup. Yeah, and the pigtail back here for the boost controller, that is supplied, and that runs to the actual mission control box that we mounted down there. I connected it kind of down back here and just kind of like wrapped up the, you know, additional loom and wire that was not being used, and left it behind the firewall. I found out that was probably the cleanest way to do it. And for this side over here, I used this nipple behind the throttle body as the vacuum reference for the fuel pressure regulator. What I did back here, just for cleanliness sake, is I got this is I believe a 1/16 NPT to a 4AN, and then I just got this little 90-degree barb here, and that's how I routed it. As you guys can see, I have these clamps and stuff on everything. This is not really TRP related, but I use these little fuel hose clamps, as opposed to I see a lot of people using just regular hose clamps or zip ties for all of their vacuum line stuff, and I highly wouldn't recommend that. But yeah, everything's pretty much wrapped up here, and then once everything's set up and you get a base map from your tuner, you're going to go into ECA here, and it's going to be flex fuel ethanol content. I mean, right now the car's not on, so it's not configured, but right now on 91 it should be anywhere from like 9 to 12% or so. But yeah, that's pretty much the entire install wrapped up here.